Well, I don't know about you, but it sure feels like a soup day to me, so I'm about to make my favorite, split pea and ham. Now, I love soups, and I know split pea and ham may sound like a Dr. Seuss novel to you, but I assure you, this is the heartiest, most satisfying soup I make, and I'm going to share the recipe with you today. Okay, here's your list of ingredients. You're going to start with a 1-pound bag of green split peas. You're going to need some chicken stock. If you get low sodium, it's fine. Unsalted is best because there's a lot of salt in this because of the ham. You're going to start with a couple of stalks of celery, some fresh parsley. Eventually, we're going to add a leek, an onion, and some carrots. And of course, the star of the show is the meaty ham bone. Meaty ham bone sounds like a drag name for a guy. I just happen to have one in my freezer, so I took it out last night so it would defrost and so I can make my soup today. Look, we all know that serving a ham at a holiday party is a great tradition that most people enjoy. I will wrestle you for a meaty ham bone left over from a party if we happen to be guests at the same event. So if you can, bring home a meaty ham bone from wherever you are, pop it into the freezer, and keep it for this occasion. You're going to want to rinse your split peas before we throw them in the stock pot. Just give them a good cold water rinse. We're going to add our rinsed split peas into a stock pot. We're going to add 4 or 5 cups of unsalted chicken stock. And to that, we will add the same amount of water. Bring that to a boil on the stove and reduce it to a simmer. While that is starting to boil, we're going to take 3 ribs of celery and dice them, leaves and all. Up about a tablespoon of fresh parsley. More if you like it. In that time of chopping, that soup mixture of beans and water and stock has come to a rapid boil. We'll add all of our greens, and we will add our meaty ham bone. Yum! And whatever other slices just happen to be in that bag. We're gonna cut those up later on. And around this time, I usually add about a ½ teaspoon of fresh tarragon, which I don't have, so I'm gonna add some herb de Provence, which is a little bit of a combination of, several different spices. It's gonna be delicious. Toss that around, and we're going to bring that down to a simmer for about 45 minutes. While the magic is happening in the stock pot, we're going to prepare our vegetables. You're going to rinse and slice the white part of a leek. Leeks are delicious, but they can be kind of sandy. So I'm going to slice off the green. We're only going to use the white part. Slice that in half. Take off your tips and just throw them in a little bowl with some cold water. Once these have soaked for about a minute or two, you can just lift and squeeze, lift and squeeze. You can run these under ice cold water as well, and the sand will release right from the layers of leek. If your carrots are thick like these are, it's better to cut them in half before you start your process of dicing. That's about a cup and a half of carrots, but you'll see that more is better than less in this recipe. Now let's dice our onion. This doesn't have to be pretty, it's going into a soup. Again, this is more than a cup. It's about a cup and a half. I just generally use a nice big fat onion. We're gonna melt 4 tablespoons of butter in a saute pan. And then we add our onions and carrots and leeks. And we're gonna wilt these for about 10 minutes. Give them a good toss and let the flame and the hot butter do its magic. I wish I had a bigger saute pan, but you know what? We use what we got. Give this an occasional toss. Oh, this looks so beautiful. 10 minutes in and our vegetables are beautifully sweated, gorgeously coated, and we're gonna add them right to our soup pan. We're gonna let that continue to simmer for about another 30 to 35 minutes. Oh my God, that looks so beautiful. And remember to clean as you go, which I have done. So I'm all cleaned up. In those 10 minutes, I got all my knives and cutting boards and counters wiped down. But if you haven't, this half hour is the perfect time. Clean it up. Don't wait for later. Okay, timer is up. Cooking is done. Now comes the fun part. We are gonna take out this gorgeous, meaty ham bone. I'm going to set it aside into another pot. I'm gonna let it cool down so I can handle it and take off all the meat on the bone. Turn off the fire, take your soup off the heat, and go do something else. I'm heading to the gym. See you in an hour. Okay, kids, an hour has gone by and our meaty bone is cool enough to handle. So we're gonna take a knife and shave off as much of the meat as we can and trim some of the fat if there is fat there. But this is gonna be your delicious little chunks of ham in the soup. Take your time going through this. It's worth it in the end. I'm like a brain surgeon here, just cutting away the fat and the grizzle and reserving all of this delicious ham. There are a couple of slices in there as well. You wanna keep all of those. Look at all that beautiful ham. Gonna go right back into that soup. While the meat was cooling, so was the soup. And can you see how thick this is? It's almost like a stew. This is the heartiest soup I have ever made, the heartiest soup you'll ever eat. Let's add our delicious chunks of ham. Stir those in. We're gonna bring this back up to a temperature that's suitable for soup. I'm gonna add another, I'd say about 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley. This is when you wanna add about a half a teaspoon to a whole teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. And if I had some sherry, I would add a tablespoon of sherry, which would really make it scrumptious. I don't have it, so I'm gonna add a splash of red wine. After it heats up, we're gonna give it a taste. Wow. You wanna get cozy on a chilly night? This is better than a fireplace. Lush and thick and hearty. It's creamy, it's chock full of vegetables and protein. It's got real stick-to-your-rib goodness. Try my split pea and ham soup. It doesn't get better than this.